Joe DeVonzo,
Yep.
and Dick Peterson.
Here.
We need to nominate and vote on a committee chairperson.
Nominate Mark Eastman.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, I'll consider it closed. All those in favor of Mark being the chairperson? All those opposed? Mark, the meeting is yours.
Okay. Item 3, approve December 2022 minutes. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Motion passes. Item 4, presentation, Aspire Golden Bucks update.
Hello. I want to thank you all for having us. I'm Jen Tarian, the Communications Coordinator for Aspire Golden Bucks.
And I'm Jordan Daly. I'm the Aspire Golden Bucks Career Coordinator.
Before we kick off our part, is there anything you'd like to share, Mr. Ruth?
I'm just going to sit here and smile. This is as proud as can be. Thank you.
All right, okay. You can always jump in. So we did have a chance to meet with some members of the Economic Development Committee in December of 2021. I'm not sure, I think the majority of you were not able to be in attendance at that. So we're going to review a little bit, and we'll stop and take questions at any time to sort of give you an understanding of what it is that we're working on and how community members and business owners can be involved in the initiative. So as you can see from our slide here, in the center we have our Aspire Golden Bucks logo, which helps you to get a sense right away that this is a local initiative. We've used the bridge, which is in the RSU logo, as well as the Golden Bucks, to make sure that it's known that our initiative is pre-K through 12 plus. It's for all students and in the district, which is comprised of the 4 towns. So that's where our name and logo come from. And the idea is it's a partnership between JMG, the Melmac Foundation, and RSU 25 to continue advancing aspirations in many different ways for students of all ages as they're thinking ahead to their future, whether that means their future as an elementary school student, building skills that they'll use in middle and high school, or whether it's middle school skills moving up, and so forth. We do have a tagline of Excite, Explore, and Experience as our 3 E's. The first being exciting students by enhancing existing curriculum and creating new opportunities that have been identified as areas of interest by community members and school staff and students as well. And then at the middle school level, giving them more opportunities to really explore various careers. So they have a wide range of ideas as they start to move forward into their high school years, and then providing additional opportunities to gain experience in the high school time frame, particularly in the second 2 years, so they can do a variety of things from small conversations right up to semester-long internships to have those opportunities. This is just a rough idea of the scope of this initiative. So I began in August of 2020. The initiative was announced to the community in November of 2020. And the early phases were really about a lot of conversations and some surveys in the beginning, collecting data and finding out what the resources are in this community. Aspire was in 1 community before ours and is now in 3 communities total right now, but they're each individualized to the local needs. So we needed to find out where our starting point was, and then Jordan came on board in March of 2021, which was really in our early implementation phase, where we were able to supply some funds for some field experiences for students. And then now we're in our main implementation years, where based on input from all the various stakeholders, we provide our time to help build systems for sustainability, as well as we can provide funds to help ensure that students can take part and teachers can do professional development and students can do field experiences. And the initiative doesn't have an end, because the idea is to build the culture within the schools so that always thinking about aspirations and careers is embedded and will continue well beyond the initial round of funding. Any questions about the basic concept before we get into some details?
Do you work individually with students, or it's?
There's a wide range, and we'll touch on a few of those, but it's everything from sometimes individual, sometimes a small group, sometimes a class, sometimes a whole grade level experience. And Jordan and I have our offices in the central office, but we, especially Jordan, are in the school buildings frequently depending on what's happening.
So then initially it's like a guidance counselor, and then you're going from that into actually programs which the students may find matches their ability or desire. You're going that way.
Sometimes it comes from an individual student request. Sometimes it could be the guidance office as they've identified a student who's looking for an opportunity at the high school, that there's a lot of interaction with the guidance department.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. All right. So
Yes, I have a question. I'm sorry. Yeah. What do you find to be the biggest problem that you have to deal with? Not to get into specifics, but you know, what is it? Learning problems? Is it mental problems? Sports problems? What's the biggest thing that people come to you and say they need help with?
they would only bring aspirations-related concerns to us. So because everything that we're supporting has to do with helping them plan for their future. So I would say the only thing I see as a problem is we want to help 1,100, students to the best extent that we can without being able to individually be working with each one of those students at all times. So we try to spread our time between all the students and all the interests of the teachers, but there really aren't. If they have a barrier to doing something like an internship, maybe that's something you're going to speak to as we'll get into a little bit more, but we can try to overcome if they have, say, even a transportation issue, right, where they want to do an internship but they might not have a car. So we can see what we can do to support those types of things.
Do you go out and seek out these internships for them?
It's a partnership, and we'll get into more details on the internships too, but sometimes, it's student-led when it can be, and we are pulling together people in the communities who are willing to potentially do that. So that's something we'll speak about as well as we get into some details.
The underlying for this program is the intentionality of education. Why am I going to school? It's more than just like, well, I turned 5, I got to go to school now. But going to school and understanding where your interests are, what do I need to do to be prepared to access that interest? And then once we figure some of that out, what pathways am I going to choose as I move through my education? And so if you have interest in a particular broad field, we try not to get too narrow for them, but broad field, what do I need to be prepared? You don't want somebody their senior year going, wow, I'd really like to go to med school, and they never took anatomy, physiology, biology, those types of things. Think about that, and that's where we really want to be at the middle school, getting kids really interested in what excites me, where are my interests, then connecting them with some of those activities and experiences. So by the time they're in high school, they're picking classes their freshman year, they know my pathway needs to include these steps to get to where I want to be.
So when I was in high school, I would have called them guidance counselors.
Then it's more than guidance. This is about setting up
That's what the guidance counselor did when I was in school.
Yeah, but not in kindergarten,
No.
right? And so what we're doing is we're setting up curriculum with intentionality. So when we do field trips now, not only are the field trips connected to the curriculum, but they're connected to what jobs are connected to this, right? So the kids we took a field trip, I think it was 4th grade, went to the Challenger up in Bangor, right, with NASA. And so the kids went there, and part of their curriculum but what are the jobs associated with that? Which, think about the vast array of jobs. Getting kids to think about that. A lot of kids don't even understand what's connected out there. They don't know the jobs that are available.
That's a pretty good path to lay out before you get to a 2-year college general education degree for
Yeah.
associates,
Yeah.
Path.
That's the whole goal. So, and some of our kiddos have got a pathway where they're going to go right from high school into the workforce. That's fine. It may be military. It may be vocational track. It may be going on to 4-year degree. It may be going on to a highly competitive 4-year private college. But think about it beforehand.
And I would say there are so many opportunities that we can try to supplement what guidance is able to share with students. So right now we have a handout that explains what all the majors are at all the 2-year community colleges in Maine. Since this is a class that has the ability to do that essentially at no cost, we wanted them to know, oh, you're interested in animation? Well, did you know at York County Community College there's a 2-year program for that? So that they know the range of opportunities.
So I'm a little curious how it's been, what, 3 years?
We're in our 3rd year.
Third year. So what sort of, I don't know what I'd call it, buy-in, but you've got a progression from some of the ones that started 3 years ago in the very early stages. Is that growing as they go? Is it spreading out into that class, say, I don't know, the 10% sort of it impacted, and then next year it maybe grows a little bit, and the year after that? Because they're seeing it, on a progression. And
From the student perspective?
well, just sort of from your perspective of those that are on the path early, because some, only had a year's exposure and then they're off. So I'm just wondering if it seems to be growing on itself.
You can jump in anytime, but so the first year, we're not really 3 years, we're 2 years, because the first year was a planning year.
Okay.
And then we had, what we're trying to do right now is to make sure that some opportunities that the school had pre-COVID, we're helping to be able to build some of those back. So there's this impact there too, or we weren't able to take kids out for a year in 2020 that they used to do. So we're seeing a return to the level kind of where we were and helping to advance from there as we go.
I guess I'm trying to forget COVID, so it's kind of an unfair question, really, because of that.
I mean, there definitely is more engagement, even just, Jordan, you want to speak about the follow-up?
The follow-up,
Part?
yes. So part of my role is connecting with the students who have graduated and seeing that, are they doing what they told us their plan was? How are their studies going? Have things changed? Did they get the job they wanted? And when I first got here, I had to follow up with students that I had never really spoken to. And their desire to text someone that they don't know after they've already graduated is pretty low. So by spending time in the schools and getting to know the students more and more, even if it's just by being there when the buses show up in the morning to be a face that they see, I've noticed each year that follow-up has increased a little bit more and more. And the students this past year have been more excited to tell me what they're doing, which has been great. And it's not every single person in the class. When they leave, they're like, I'm done, high school's over. But there's still a group from each year that'll actually tell me about what's going on, and seeing that some of the things we've been able to work with them on have kind of carried through a little bit.
Great.
Another way to measure impact is as we revamp and revise curricula, we're taking the college career standards and moving them into our curriculum. So it's interwoven, because nothing's going to be successful if it's standalone. It has to be integrated, and so that's happening in all the curricula as well as we go through our progressions.
Excuse me, how many people are in this organization or group that you're in here?
Locally?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many do you have here in Bucksville? Just the two of
It's
you?
us.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. How many are you able to help in a year's time?
They
We-
impact all of the
Yeah.
schools. They
Yeah.
impact all of the kids, all of the teachers.
We try to offer a range of opportunities so that sometimes it might be a smaller impact, but there's impact everywhere. And then there are different impacts depending on certain groups of students. The group in the middle school, there's a group in particular that has multiple guest speakers on a regular basis. And at the high school, some things students can opt in on their own, and other things they're open to everyone. Some take advantage of more opportunities than others, but it's open for everyone.
And how many students are there that you have to help?
In total, well, the school,
Yes.
so it's about 1,100 students total from pre-K to grade 12 in RSU 25.
And it's just the two of you. That seems like fairly wide crack, you know?
It's kind of us working with everyone who's already teaching the students, but kind of making those connections. So whether it's just being blunt about, you're learning this right now, and this is a career that relates exactly to that. So it's the culture that we're working on. So it's reaching everybody all at once, and it might not be every student individually, but just the entire field of what they're doing. So they start to recognize those things just like we do every time we go somewhere. We're like, oh, that's someone's job. And our hope is that the students are starting to do that too.
Something we're working on right now, the high school had an existing team before we came that was college and career access. And one thing they would do is take every sophomore on one day to a variety of different places to see businesses and school options. And we're working right now to help bring that back, since now we can go out and visit places. And so that'll impact every sophomore in one day. They'll go to a couple of different businesses as well as an educational setting, and they have choices they can make as to what suits their needs. So that's an example where we aren't doing that alone. We're helping the logistics to make it happen, and then we work with a small team of teachers at the high school, and then the sophomore class teachers in the advisory role will do it together.
So is there
Sorry, we'll get there.
a level of participation that every student is required, or is it totally on the student's initiative or interest?
If a teacher gave an assignment that was connected to it, or they would, something like that could be, but we don't have any requirement.
And, go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my question, and it's kind of, I think I know what the answer is, but you have your achievers. They're just going to set the world on fire. It doesn't matter what's going on. They pretty well have a good game plan. All right. Then you have the ones that come up to the water, but they haven't drank. I think, if I'm understanding your program, it's more to help them get to that point where they can go and taste and take a drink of the water. The other ones, they're doing all right. So that group that you're trying to get up there, all right, how big is that group out of the 1,100? I mean,
We don't look at it that way, so
You're trying to
I,
quantify this as a
no,
program. It's not a program.
No, it's not a program. It's a program to help young people understand what's available and then to get them there. I want to be a marine biologist. I don't have the credentials to ever be a marine biologist. My wife was, but I'm not. But what do I need to do? You're going to go and say, well, this is what you need to do. My math is not that great. My science is probably great, whatever. How do you take those kids and then get them charged up and ready to take it on? I think that's what you're really doing here, is showing them a way to get there.
Helping them understand what the opportunities are so that students and their families can have those conversations
Yes.
and plan.
That's what I'm picking up
And that's,
here.
and that's what it's trying to do.
I think.
it's
that's-
not like, it's not a lot of a little bit of one-on-one, but not a lot of one-on-one counseling. It's not that type of, let me make your path for you.
Okay, so you're taking and drawing on a piece of paper, this is where you need to go, and I'll follow up with you to see if you're getting there. If you have all the tools.
Why don't you do the whole presentation?
There you go.
Yeah.
Because
You guys are guessing at a lot of things.
That's okay. We got you. So before we can really engage with the community and expand on what's happening, we had to kind of figure out what everyone was already doing. So at the beginning of this initiative, it was spending time reviewing reports, looking at other previous initiatives, and looking at the RSU 25 strategic plan to see what they want to have done that ties in with life and career. And then we formed a steering committee, so a group of people that it's made up of, we have a couple of student representatives, there are people from each school, we have the lovely Ruth Rotella joining us for different perspectives, and we also have representative from JMG. So that group gets together with us to kind of talk about what we're already doing and kind of help us see different viewpoints, because there are only 2 of us, so we need to be able to see what other ideas people might have, take all of that information, or maybe even contacts that they have to be able to create the events and activities that we want. And then I am not from Bucksport. I love spending time here, and so one of the things I did when I first got here was make a list of a lot of the things to do. It's definitely not all of the things to do in town, but I wanted to create something that could be a checklist for not only myself but also students. So when they're going around town, maybe introducing themselves to a business owner or going in and seeing something that happens that they don't always think about. There's also a line on this to-do list where they can kind of write in their own thing that maybe they found while exploring the community, because I just want people to get out there and really see everything that this town has to offer. And it helped me get to know all the opportunities as well. We've also hosted and attended family nights and public outreach events, so hosting events that kind of bring some business owners in to talk to students and their families in sort of a relaxed setting, but also things such as Orland River Day or Trunk or Treat that they had here. We were able to kind of just be there and be seen and talk to people as they go by and kind of answer questions about what we do, or maybe even have the students see us more outside of the school as well. And these are some pictures from some of our community engagements. So we've had students take trips. They've been to Bucksport House of Pizza. Some have gone to Hannaford. Some have gone to Pet Provisions. And when we go on those trips, we have them kind of do fun activities, but also think about all the people that work there and all the things that go into all of the stuff they do on a regular basis. Like if they order a pizza, or they're shopping at the grocery store, or they happen to stop by to pick up something for their pet. We want them to think about jobs everywhere that they go. We also bring in guest speakers, so you can see Linda Burgess and Brian Townsend from the YMCA. They both have come in. We've had plenty of other guest speakers, and there's even one group at the middle school where at the beginning of the year they give me a list of careers that they're interested in, and I do my best to find as many people as I can to go in and talk to those students who might need a little bit more motivation when it comes to sticking with the path that they're thinking about. And I also like to make sure that all the people we interact with in situations like this tell the student about their path, because it's not always just a straight line. They might have had another job at some point, or maybe they didn't take the traditional route to get to that career that we always think of. So helping the students understand that there's more than one way to get a career. And then, of course, the events I spoke about, Orland River Day and Trunk or Treat, just being out there in the community and getting to know people, because we don't know everyone as soon as it starts, but we have all this time to kind of get to know them. And we also had our community outreach event where we had some business owners come to the Alamo for an evening of just discussing a similar presentation like this, talking about what we do and how they might be able to get involved and help us make this work happen.
And to broaden what we do a little bit further, just to give you kind of some other examples, we work in partnership. We're always looking for ways to build up what's already happening versus starting something new, and that helps with sustainability and also just to increase the capacity of what people are doing. So, for example, when Adult Ed is offering a new program, Kathy Pelletier told me about these opportunities, and I said, great, I want to share these with the students and their families and parents. And so I made a flyer that she could use, but also we could share out. So there's a lot of those types of things that happen within this. And then if businesses have a job opening or a volunteer need, they can share those so they can be posted at the high school. And the other two are here to show you examples that whenever we run some type of contest, or we're feeding teachers at a meeting, or we're doing anything like that, we try to use as much of the money that we have access to locally. So we've supported over a dozen businesses in the district so far, pretty much everywhere that serves any kind of food at this point, as well as offering up local prizes. Sometimes the kids can choose their prize, and they might choose a gift certificate to Book Stacks. They might choose a gift certificate to Sweet Cheeks or something like that. And so that we're introducing people to the options in the community, but also supporting those local business owners. And Jordan also mentioned that we like to profile how people's careers sometimes change over their pathways. So I do, those little purple and yellow things are examples of career timelines that I create, and anyone's welcome to fill in the survey and have their timeline created if they're willing to share that out. We use a variety of those for students to see.
And because this all started during the pandemic and we couldn't really get students out on field trips, excuse me, you can't take an entire bus of students to a business and cram everyone in there and, you know, really have the experience that they want. So we saw that opportunity to make virtual field trips for students. And so we went a little ways away. We started off with Mount Waldo Plastics to show students how shovels are made. And these are also shovels that they have at their school, so there's that connection. We were also able to bring back the little plastic that they use to make the shovels, so all the students kind of got to like see a bag of that or kind of handle a couple of pieces of it just to see what goes into that process. And so in that video they were able to watch it from start to finish, the stuff that they had in their hands all the way to the shovels that they have at the school, as well as learning about the different jobs that they have there and talking to the owner to discuss what his pathway was. We've also made one for the Hinckley Company so students could see how yachts are made just down the road. And we really want to start making more of those here in Bucksport, because even though we can get going on field trips and everything and students can start to go places, it's great to have these as an option for if there's a snow day and people are inside or they need an activity for a sub. It's still a way that they can talk about careers even just by pressing play, and that we've already done that work for them a little bit. We also have like worksheets that we've created to go with these videos, so it doesn't end as soon as the video's over. The students kind of sit down and think about what they saw, and maybe they design their own shovel or their own yacht, or talk about what kind of business they might want to run, or listing the careers that they heard about while they watched that video. And some other videos that I've created are for the students at Miles Lane, who every month they have a different character element that they learn about. And it's kind of like a skill that they need, and they usually apply it to what the students are doing in school, but we wanted to take that and apply it to the jobs that are around them, so people can see, or the students can see, that adults are thinking about the same skills that the students are when they're in the elementary school. So each month I've gone to a different business or spoken to a different professional within our community about what they do and had them talk about how they use the same element that the students are working on. So it's just a super simple way of connecting them. It takes about 3 minutes for a student to watch that video, and they've already met someone new in the community and also learned about their career at the same time.
And we also wanted to mention, as we've talked about a little bit already tonight, the range as they're in high school of getting a little more experience. That can be everything from a job shadow, which might be visiting a place one time and having a conversation with someone and watching and seeing how they do their job, to something called MCEB, which is the Main Career Exploration Badge, and that has outside funding connected to it through JMG. And so if a student completes some online work and we can help them find opportunities to go out for a 40-hour experience, they can actually be paid for that from an outside source of funds. And then we have the full semester internships, which Bucksport High School has had informally. Usually a student would come and say, I'm interested in this field, I know someone I could work with, is it okay for me to, can we set this up and will I be able to earn credit? And so that's had existed for quite a period of time. We want to try to scale that up, so in order to do that there needed to be more systems put into place. So we're taking advantage of the time that we have now while we're here to sort of formalize some of those structures so that it's a working model, and then the school can decide how they're going to continue it on down the road. So Rich has had interns prior to when we started doing this work, but is still doing interns here. And then 2 students this fall did a Compass Point real estate internship with a contact that they had. We have a student at Maine Water, the wastewater treatment facility, and then multiple opportunities within the school district, since either students who are interested in teaching, or we had someone who interned with buildings and grounds in the fall. We have sometimes someone interning with the tech department, so making use of all of the potential career, and not always the exact career, but even just elements of a career that they're interested in, to get a sense of, yeah, this is really something I'm interested in, or maybe it's not, but that's okay too. And one other opportunity we have is when a senior does get accepted into a program. You may have, if you follow Bucksport High School social media at all, they always share out, this student has been accepted to such and such program. Well, to piggyback off that, I ask them if they would like to share what their intended major is and what helped them choose that, so we can share that out to inspire maybe younger students to think about pathways. If they choose to do that, they can also check a box that says, I'd like to speak with someone who's in this field. And then Jordan will find a contact for them to have a one-on-one conversation with. So part of what we did at the event in the fall at the Alamo was present these options to local businesses and ask, are these things you're interested in? Would you like to be interviewed in a video? Would you like to host a job shadow or a one-on-one career chat? So we can start building those numbers. So we did bring some folders today that do have a copy of that survey in that, if you'd like to take a closer look. And if you yourself or someone you know might be interested, please pass that along. So we'll pass those out. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on to that?
One question on that last
Yeah.
slide. And
Yeah.
I apologize if I just missed it. What's MCEB?
MCEB, Maine Career Exploration Badge. It is a program that is a 40-hour work experience that a student can do, and they can be paid for doing it from an outside funding source. It's in place for at least this year and next year. We're building the internship system here to match with it while that other opportunities here. So a student who does an internship also will get MCEB credit and be able to access the funds too. And then long term, if that piece goes away, we'll still have the internship piece here. Not necessarily a 40-hour experience, but it'd be the longer term one. Yeah, a lot of acronyms.
Since I'm not that familiar, and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to clarify for myself so I know what I'm thinking of. This is after school hours or during school hours? You're not during school hours.
Primarily,
Do you
yeah.
work with teachers on this, or the teachers recommend students to you, or students come to you on their own?
It could be any of
All of
that,
the
all of those things.
Okay. And a sensitive question: do you find many students who come from broken homes that have who use you a lot for that, or is it just from students from? I'm just wondering because I worked for many years in that type of category. I was just wondering, do you have many students who may not be getting support at home, and do they come to you? It's a difficult point. I'm just wondering.
Oh, yeah. I'd say that we see students from all backgrounds with whatever kind of support at home, but we also try to make sure that no matter what it is that we're doing, that people can have these opportunities no matter what needs they might have. So I host what I call Field Trip Friday, so I will go to a school or a business and post that as an option for some high schoolers where I take a small group and we go, but we threw in a small piece where if their parent or guardian asks for us to drop them off at home if we're getting late, so that way someone doesn't have to come pick them up if they happen to miss the bus. That's a barrier that we can get rid of right there, where I will
And the
drop them
age
off on the way
aspect
back.
starts from the grammar school all the way up, or are you doing just high school? Or?
That's just for my field trips, was just for high school, for that exact service right there, but everything we do is we start with pre-K up through grade 12 and plus.
Those are the only opportunities that usually extend beyond the school day. So I would also say part of that too is to get students to be able to go and see a campus that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have been able to go and see. So it's kind of meant to be for that junior year, early senior year. You're thinking you might want to see a business or a school, but you're not sure how you would get to visit it. There's been a wide range of those trips that students have been able to go on. And the other things that we do for community-based are sometimes in the evening or weekends, like the community events where we go out and we share resources directly with families too. And also in your folder is a copy of one of last year's newsletters. And the newsletter comes out every month. It's available through email or online. And we do put some print copies sometimes in the schools too. But the idea being we can share a resource directly to a high school student, directly to the parent of an elementary school student, so they can be more empowered to investigate opportunities on their own or be aware of what's coming up. Because we know we can't as two people do it all.
One more question.
Yeah.
I think I'm starting to understand.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
all right. do you find you're doing more internships or events and activities? Because I'm hearing a lot of events and activities. I'm seeing the internships. So if I want to go be whatever, you try to get that so I can go to that business and be a part of an internship. And am I understanding that correctly? That they wouldn't have another opportunity except you folks paved the way for them to get there. I'm trying to really understand.
That's okay. Do you mean like would they be able to do an internship without going through us? Is that
Yeah, in other words, they may not have the tools or the understanding how to do an internship, and you would hook them up with a local business or a business, wherever it happens to be, so that they can go and do a 1 or 2 day internship and understand that business a little bit better, at least some of the working atmosphere.
That's definitely a big piece of it. I would say it's all spread between all of those things that you listed. But even the other day, there was a student who is interested in filling some of their study halls with an internship, and they know what they want to do. But I sat down with them, and we contacted the company they're interested in. And then instead of just having me reach out, I also took that opportunity to have that student write an email with me and have him send it to the business, because we could tackle two things right there, where it's kind of putting yourself out there and communicating with a business, but also having me help them work through that. So it's kind of a mix of everything.
Oh, no, I think I'm trying to understand, and the school wouldn't have the resources to do that otherwise.
It's limited. This grant is about building capacity.
Right. They get the money from a foundation, if I remember correctly.
Yep, it came from Melmac.
Yeah.
Melmac Foundation.
And how much is that money?
Well, spread over the 5 years in total, it'll be close to $1 million
Yeah.
investment.
What are your interests in the military?
Well, they wouldn't necessarily be interested in the military.
I don't care, I want to know.
There are opportunities where military people come to give presentations at the schools, so we can promote when the opportunity, and there is
And how do
actually,
you feel about that?
we,
It's a pathway, and
Yeah.
we want them to explore whatever pathway
There's a
interests
pathway,
them.
and the school is wide open to
yeah,
that.
no,
There's things in life that I don't care for, you know? I wouldn't necessarily push people in that direction. I'm just asking you what your feelings are about the military.
we wouldn't make a judgment.
We don't make value
No.
decisions on that. We create
what I figured.
opportunities for kids. If they want to explore that, that is perfectly okay. And we have a policy as far as recruiters. They're more than welcome in our doors. They're encouraged to come. But they, again, that's, if the kids are interested, that's there. We don't make those value decisions for kids.
No, I got recruited right out of
It's really presenting opportunities, and for example, HCTC, Hancock County Tech in Ellsworth, is a great resource.
Yeah.
So I recently just had an overview that was created that it showed all the careers that you could go into if you were to choose one of the 11 programs at HCTC. So that if a student in 8th grade is considering what classes to take in high school, a counselor can say, well, you sound like you might be interested in something. You might want to consider the tech school, and be able to present them with a range of options, right?
Wow.
So we present all options.
I just want to say thank you for doing the extra work that you're doing and putting up with my questions. But I'd love to see 10 following Rich as an intern, they're coming down and just following him for a week.
Right. Well, they're the ones who are coming for Rich right now. They come for a whole semester, so they
Whoa.
get it. Yes,
Whoa.
it's an in-depth
Really?
4-credit experience. Usually 4 days a week.
4 days a week.
Yeah, for an hour a day.
Only an hour.
Well, they
That's
have
all it
classes.
takes.
See, we gotta fit it in their schedule.
No, I think that's wonderful. Anything that we'll do to help our students find their path, I think, is a wonderful program.
So basically, it's a form of fostering maturation and responsibility within children from an early age, so they can sort of realize that they are going to be responsible for themselves, and they can find something.
Yes.
And part of this goes back, they're working on developing the early childhood fair, which has been done in this community for years, but COVID again disrupted all of that. So that's being rekindled, but part of that's going to be connecting families with young kiddos about, okay, being prepared to enter school, anything, some of the activities we're going to have, or connections we're going to have, we're going to connect them to the Alphons. So where folks can go in, then the Alphon has a grant where each kid gets a $500 deposit in a long-term account for them that the families can build on for education, post-secondary education. Talk to the families about that. Why is it important to start thinking about post-secondary when they're 4 years old? You know, and then starting those conversations. So what we want to do is create opportunities so families are thinking about education as a pathway to an end, not just a perfunctory activity.
And also in the newsletter that's in there, it highlights an event we did last year for financial literacy for middle school age students and their families to be thinking ahead to what does it take to be able to be prepared for post-secondary if that's their interest. So that's a big, actually at the middle school level we're going to do another event, their family event they want again, as kind of a exposure to the terms that come up in post-secondary education or financial literacy and just having good skills that will help them in life and career, regardless of what they choose to do.
Great. Well, thank you for coming in. Thanks for the presentation.
I'm going to give you one little thing that I've seen over my short experience in my new thing that I'm doing, but your timing is impeccable because I went on a recent bus tour that was all about going to different types of businesses and education institutions and getting presentations on different careers. There is, and it's for the foreseeable future, and the business community should open their arms to this program because there is a severe, severe work shortage and pathway for workers that's out there right now. And so I can't imagine there isn't any business that you could approach that wouldn't open their arms to wholeheartedly endorsing this. And I've got some ideas for you on places that I went that I lived in Maine all my life and had no idea that they were there. And one of them grew out of a 4-H project. And it's now this place called the Down East Institute in Harrington. And it's amazing. Take kids there. And talk to the people who have grown up from Washington County that are now, and talk about enthusiastic young people about what they're doing. It was a great place to be exposed to. And the new bioengineering building at the university.
Well, thank you for listening. It is a big and broad concept, which is both good and bad. It means it can be tailored to be anything, but it makes it so broad it takes a while to get a grasp of what it is we're trying to offer.
But there's some excitement out there for kids, at least what I saw. And I think your 3 E's are spot on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We also, we have a thank you for letting us come in and chat about what we do.
We don't go anywhere without something.
They're strong in the marketing and branding.
We have a marketing budget.
I think I have some of these already.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we like purple and gold.
It's kind of a brand thing, isn't it?
Almost there.
Thank you.
Compass Point
One more.
Real Estate.
There we go.
Compass Point's where, in East Point?
Thank you.
What?
Blue Hill.
Blue Hill, huh?
One of the students had a personal.
Yeah, Jamie. That's what
Jamie.
Jamie.
Yeah.
See, if you can give the count of what's in there, you get a $10 bill.
All right. Move on to item 5, which is we're going to hear 2 proposals for 27 Main Street. The first being Mr. Payne.
Documents to share with you. Put that one by, you can't steal it.
All right.
Please.
Okay, all right.
He's got your nose.
Please. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Two of these, perhaps. Will also be up on.
interesting way to do it.
Huh.
Gives the parking you need.
I'm shocked, though, that the town doesn't consider making it for the project. If you go to any meeting, you have community parking, bike permit, and nobody uses that.
I guess we can start. Rich does have this on what I gave you on to display here, where he's run off to, but
He'll run back.
my
eventually.
prop master has left me. But my name's Pat Kane. I'm the project coordinator for statewide property management in Ellsworth. Although our office is in Ellsworth, we do projects all over the state and New England, as far as New Hampshire currently. We've been looking for a project in the town of Bucksport for a considerable amount of time. I've worked with Crystal Harlan as a real estate agent. We've looked at most of your town over the last handful of months, and
Keep going, he'll get to you.
And one of the most appealing tracts of land and opportunity perhaps is the town-owned property at 27 Main Street. I was provided with the assessment that was done by the town for that property and the vision for the town. And one of the things that struck me on it was a multi-use development of that property, and with probably the most informative line that I took from that was for high-quality market housing to go on that property. So we...
Is that a PowerPoint?
It is,
Is that the one you want to open right now? Or?
if we can.
Yeah.
This is Ellsworth, isn't it?
That's not, that's actually in Trenton. That's a facility that we built out and own in Trenton. The photos that you see in front of you, and they're on that brochure.
Oh, yeah, it is true.
Yeah, we have a total of 17 units in Trenton currently. That's built out the first 2 phases. We're beginning phase 3 with 9 more buildings that will be built there this summer. So we are proposing a very similar project for 27 Main Street. Obviously, with the size of the property there, that scale will not work. We're proposing, as you can see on the diagram, that we can put 4 duplexes on that property for a total of 8 housing units. We're also proposing to put 2 commercial structures on that property. You'll see on there that I estimated 28 by 44, but that's to be determined. There's more space available. They could be larger. Those are single-story build at shed-style roofs on those with the housing units behind them built into the hill. So as we go through, these are all 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. We're proposing that by building these into the hill, that we can put a garage underneath in the basement of them. This helps in helps in multiple ways. Parking for the helps with parking on Main Street for those vehicles, and also it's an added benefit for the homeowners to have actually a garage on site. If the floor plans come up on here, you'll see them a little bit bigger, but basically, when you enter the front door of these homes, you enter into a foyer. There's a large living room and kitchen and bathroom on the first floor. The second story consists of 3 bedrooms and a bathroom on the second story. Success.
Refresh my memory how you get to this. Gotta go to slideshow. I don't use PowerPoint. From the beginning, all the way to the left. Oh, perfect.
Wait a minute. You got us here, you didn't.
So this is just some information on the company I work for, and that's included there. This is the layout that we envision for the town-owned property on Main Street. We have not had this engineered yet. This is our vision. This is drawn to scale. If we are selected to build this project out, we will engage Haley and Ward. I've already done so. In your packet, there's a letter of support from them, that they will work with us on this project to design this. They'll design the final placement of the homes and where they'll fit, along with the electrical, the sewer, all the proper parking spaces. And these are the 2 commercial units that I spoke of earlier, with the shed roofs on them, with ample parking for whatever type of business might happen to want to go in there. We envision building the duplexes, the homes out first, with an advertising for built to suit for the 2 commercial units to see what type of business might want to come to your town and locate, so that we can build it appropriately for them. So these are the actual structures. These are in Trenton. These are 33 by 40, 33 feet, 40 feet long. You could see the 2 entrances. Go to the next slide, Rich. This is this is just showing the garages that we would utilize in the basement. I've turned these. I believe from the elevations that I can see there, we're going to be able to take advantage of the river and the fort from there. So I've turned these, and we'll tweak this if we're selected to move forward with this project to take full advantage of that view for the people that are in those homes. They should be able to see right over the town hall and everything else, and take advantage of the views there. So next slide. That's just the front and rear elevations. Again, we will cite these to take advantage of that view. How they're going to go. These units are, that's the layout of each unit. That's the foyer showing the entrance, the doors, the living room I spoke of, and the kitchen, and they're identical for either side. So every unit's the same. This is just a blow up of that. This is one side so that you can get an idea of what it is. There is a closet as you enter in the main door, upstairs and downstairs along one another, so they'll enter from the garage. They'll be able to come upstairs here onto the first floor, and then again up for the second floor. This is one of the kitchens in one of the units. As you can see, they're all high-end. They're granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, all high-end lights. This is stairs going up to the second floor, and that's what would be the living room. That's one of the bathrooms, again, granite countertops. The only thing different here, these units that we put rug on these stairs, we will not be doing that anymore. They will be laminate stairs. We're replacing them all after. Some of these units are 7 years old, and we're going back and redoing the stairs already. That was a mistake from the get-go, but that won't be the same there. That's showing the second story with the layout of the bedrooms and the full master bath. And again, every unit is the same. And that's showing coming up the stairs, and that's showing 2 of the 3 bedrooms, the entrances. One of the bedrooms. And there's a letter of support from Haley and Ward, and there's also a letter of support from the First, who is one of our financial institutions, that they back this project and that we are financially viable to build out this project if we're chosen to do so. And that's included in the packets that I gave you there. I contact information if there are any further questions.
Any other questions?
So the utilities are in the garage?
Utilities will be in the garage, that's correct. These units are extremely efficient. All of these are heated with heat pumps. They do have secondary electric baseboard heat. In fact, before last weekend's brutally cold storm, I had to go to Trenton and show many of the tenants how to even turn it on, because they've never used it. The heat pumps heat all these units, and they actually have hybrid water heaters in them also. So the heat pumps heat the hot water up to a certain temperature, and then the electric takes over and keeps it up to temperature.
So essentially, the living area is the same as the footprint, because you've cut it in half.
That's correct.
So there'd be like 700, little less than 700 square feet per floor.
That's correct. Yep.
The garage is in the rear of the entrance, or is the garage is in?
Have to be on the front.
The garage will be from the Main Street side. You'll enter in. These will be tucked into that hill. that goes up behind it.
Did you draw up this plan? So this is your vision. You haven't had it engineered yet, but what's
So no, I had this plan drawn. I worked with, this was actually from KBB Builders. These units that you're seeing here are modular built. These were made in Paris, Maine. That's the company we more than likely will use or selected for the project. And this is the gentleman I work with that drew this for me.
So did they actually visit the site?
Those dimensions, no, they did not visit the site. Those dimensions came from actually a diagram and information that I got from the town, and then I worked with him
Okay.
over the internet to be able to put this together.
Nice. Okay.
So, I know it hasn't been engineered, but how deep into that hill we expect to go?
So as you can see from this diagram, we have the 10-foot setback from the property lines here. So a lot of it will depend on what we find in this hill, because I've not found anybody in the town yet that can tell me what we're likely to run into here. We're really hopeful it's gravel and not ledge. So that story is to be told if we're selected, once the engineers find what's in that hill.
And you got one house sitting pretty close to the edge up there, I think, of the hill.
2 units.
The one that's there now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's depicted on that. You can see that on that diagram where that kind of drops almost in the portion
Yeah.
there. It sits there. So the exact placement of these buildings could maneuver a little bit depending on what we find in that hill and make sure we have the proper setbacks. There's also a couple of easements on this property that we're gonna have to deal with one of the homeowners for electrical and sewer.
Yep.
But we're prepared to do that, to work with that homeowner to make sure that they're satisfied as well.
So, would you anticipate that if you found really bad news in the hill, that's a showstopper, or just
I don't believe there's anything in that hill that's gonna be a showstopper. What could potentially happen is if we can't put these buildings where we anticipate putting them, the only thing that comes into jeopardy are the two commercial buildings, because that moves that encroaches them forward. So we may not have the space to build what we want to build there. We won't allow them to, the engineers tell us we can. But from what I'm being told, the town found when they did the clearing lot to the septic, our understanding is we should be able to accomplish this, yeah.
In a perfect world, goals being what they are, what's the timeline? Is it Paris Builders, you said?
Yeah.
Where are they at? Are they like years behind? What would your timeline potentially be for success?
Depending on the town's timeline, I know there's another step to this process if we're awarded this. My goal would be to have people living in these this fall. If I order these buildings today, I can have these in May.
Wow.
So if putting everything together in a perfect world, this would go quickly.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And are these rentals?
These are rentals, that's correct.
You anticipate a market rate for the 3 bedrooms?
I do, and it's interesting on where you are in the county, what that market is. These units that I'm speaking about in Trenton, those are currently renting for $23.95 a month. I understand that won't happen in Bucksport. That's not the, hopefully we'll get there one day, but we understand that's not where the market is currently in this town.
Yeah.
And it may affect some of the amenities that we are able to put into the buildings. Granted, it's expensive, some of these higher end lighting fixtures and all that stuff may have to change a little bit to meet with what the market is for this town.
Are you getting that 2,300 in Trenton? Are you getting that with utilities, without utilities?
Yes, without utilities.
Without.
Without. Yeah. And the only utility for these buildings is the electric.
Yeah.
I would think, though, if they're built for a view of the fort and the,
Yeah.
and the bay and the
I don't
bridge,
think it's
then,
very far off.
I don't think it's that.
Okay.
It's not far from where we want to be headed.
No, I would envision these units being $1,800 to $2,000 a month to fit this community.
Lease is a 1-year lease, or?
Interesting you bring that up.
Well, I thought I should.
So we are actually moving towards 2-year leases.
Okay.
But all of ours right now are currently 1 year, but we are moving toward a 2-year lease.
So nothing shorter than a 1-year lease?
No, no,
That's good to know.
no. No, these are not Airbnbs and, no, these are.
Well, this day and age, you never know.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Great to meet you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can have everything. I would like these back.
Okay, fair enough.
At this point, once Mr. Kane is done, I would just ask that you make a recommendation on the proposal, and you'll be making recommendation on both. Would you rather hear the second proposal first, or, because you can recommend both, you can deny both, you can pick one. Either way, both will be going to the council with a recommendation from this committee.
You want to hear both?
I think hearing both would be good.
I'll think both. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah. Why don't we move on to item B and 5 under Mr. Peppin, and then we'll come back to a vote.
Okay.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I think after Mr. Kane's presentation, I can sit down. They're almost identical, so I thank you for doing that for me. I appreciate it. I'm just kidding with that. Let me pass these out. Save, you'll have to share on some of these, but I don't think I have quite enough for everybody, but we can talk through it and then you can I don't. No, I didn't know we'd have AV. I should have known that, but
We'll share a
this
packet, Joe.
This will work as well.
He's selling these.
So I wanted to start just by saying that, just do a quick intro. I think I know some of you, but my name's Chris Pepin. I live in Orrington. I'm currently building a place out on Strickland Ridge Road here in Bucksport. A few years ago, I bought the old office buildings from the former mill, and we've been slowly renovating that. So our biggest problem we ran into over there was sprinkler systems, and I've run into that all over the place where I'm building. So that was about a 14-month delay for us, but it is what it is. And I didn't anticipate that because there was a functioning sprinkler system when we walked into the building, so I thought, no problem, and started plowing forward, and then and here we are. But they're on the last, I think they have maybe 2 more days of that, and then we're on the last 3 or 4 weeks over there. Thank God, and we're finally almost there. So we've done quite a lot of market analysis over the last few years, and actually where we started was with Rich and who at the time I think was the whole town committee, correct? The town manager,
Luke and Caitlin.
Yeah, so my starting point after I purchased the building was to sit down with everybody and ask, and I know this is always a dangerous question, but to ask, what does the town want me to do with the land and the building over there? And I knew what I wanted, but I didn't really know at the time if there was a big need for residential space for apartments. And so fortunately, our visions kind of aligned at that time, and everybody, I think, immediately said, without me needing to say too much, we have a housing problem in Bucksport. We constantly are having people call, and especially, I think, for newer, high-end, as Mr. Kane pointed out with his presentation, that type of living spaces. So we started plowing forward. I had Plymouth Engineering come on board, and they gave the ultimate proposal along with me to convert that space from office commercial into this. But so that brings me to today's topic, which is 27 Main Street over here. And I wanted to give you that little bit of background so you know that I am invested in Bucksport. I have done quite a bit of work here. And actually, long before that, the first home I ever bought was on Bald Mountain Road when I was barely out of college. I think it was the first summer I found a place over there for, I think it was $27,000, $28,000, and I had to borrow money from my parents to get it, but it was a really cool spot over there. So, as I said, I live in Bucksport, or in Orrington rather. My wife is a school nurse here in town, so she's been here for a few years, and she's from Sherman, and I say that because that was a very community-oriented town up there, and that's what she's found here in Bucksport. She absolutely loves it, and we love it. We spend a lot of time here in the summertime. But so, fast forward to looking at the piece of property over there. When I met with Rich 3 years ago, at that same time, we talked about this piece of property, and I've seen different write-ups in the paper since then about different companies that are coming in to develop that and this and that. And at the time, I said, well, let me see if I can get through this big project over there of converting that office space into into apartments, and then if this piece of property is still around, then I'd love to talk to the town about it and see what the desire is. I've heard a little bit over the last, I think, year or so that maybe there was a desire to have some commercial space, and I think what I discovered in my workings in the area, I did have Keith Ewing originally look at that piece of land with me, and then also Alan Perry is my surveyor, and we didn't see that there was an easy way to get into that hillside and develop that to the extent maybe that Mr. Kane is. And I'm sure that there's a capability to do that. For me, I don't see how I could do it and be cost effective and still get to the point where I've got some nice buildings up and I'm not owing too much money to the bank. Which brings me to, I'm mostly self-funded. I have 3 businesses that are in this field. I have a property management company, a construction company, and a real estate investment company. So my portfolio is about 100 units in let's say, the greater Bangor area, including Bucksport. I do a small amount of remodel and resale every year, but my biggest focus is on multifamilies. And so when I look at the multifamilies, I have probably roughly half of those that I consider in today's age, at $2,300, and we're seeing those same prices in Bangor. So I still have about 50% of my properties in the, let's say, $800 to $1,100 range. So people can still afford that, and that's tough for people, but they can still afford that. And then it goes up from there with the other 50%. So this piece of property over here, you can see Alan helped me just do a really simple mock-up of what we think we could get in there for spots, which would be, the 6 spaces without having to do too much site work. And then, I've looked at, do you do that as rental properties? Do you do that as resale? Do you do that as commercial space? So let me walk you through that a little bit. What I have found, and all of you are aware, in the last 10 years, and this is across the country, Bangor is a great example, and you guys have done a knock-up job with it here too, but creating a really friendly downtown atmosphere. You guys have done that. We come here once a week for ice cream in the summer, so, and the line is long, and people love the downtown space. But there's a capacity in small towns of the amount of businesses that they can have before you bring in new commercial space and you push out old businesses. Somebody's going to lose in that battle, and it might be the new business, it might be the old business, but I've seen that time and time again. I own a fair amount of commercial property, and it's really hard. All my stuff is old buildings. It's really hard when you're competing in the area with new spaces. So I just, when I looked at that, I took that into consideration of, if you put a business here, what are you going to be putting in here that's going to be competing with the businesses that are already on the downtown market? I think we'd all like to say it would be awesome if we had a couple more restaurants. Everybody loves food, but I don't know how well Sandy's is doing. I've heard they're not doing great, but and whether it's the food, whether it's the location, no idea. But again, it's a consideration. McLeod's, love to eat there. It's a great place. But my point is, I don't know, in the summertime it's probably easy to support more of those types of businesses. I don't know that it's easy to support that many in the wintertime. So that's kind of, you guys that live here, something you have to consider in your next step. With the development in the downtown space, the one thing I consistently see, and that's why I picked the design that I did, these are only 1-bedroom homes. They're contemporary, very modern, very high scale. And for me, looking at a town as a manager or as a group of you all sitting here looking at economic development, one of the things that I consider is my buyer population out there. And for this downtown space, if you had single-family residential homes, you're going to be entertaining, bringing in young professional couples. They're all looking for downtown space. They love it. You're not going to get a better view than what you've got over on 27 Main Street. And I think along with that brings, a certain amount of annual salary. And as I think I put in one of my data points, the largest percentage of your salary is spent on your day-to-day living expenses. So you're going to be putting that back into the community. And it's a totally different mindset than the people that are living in an apartment and coming and going. So that's something else that I considered when I looked at what do I think would work best in that space. So I think those are the big points that I have as far as how did I look at, with my experience knowing Bucksport and what I'm doing in the greater Bangor area, how have I looked at developing and what have I seen for success. So before I keep yammering on, do any of you have any questions at this point?
Did you say the homes are 1 bedroom each?
They are, yeah. Spacious 1 bedroom.
What is the square footage?
I think they're approximately 1,100 square feet.
And is,
Yeah, go ahead.
is this a living space on the ground floor or garage?
There's a small amount of living space on the ground floor, but it's mostly garage or car.
And it's, now, I don't know enough about that, but can you get that many curb cuts on a main street like that? Because they're
we might have to be creative with that. I mean, I think the town can help persuade the curb cuts on that, but I don't know what there used to be
it's a
before
state
those.
route, so.
Yeah. I think if we couldn't get that number of curb cuts, I think when we looked at this, we put it, the setback over there is, I believe, is 10 feet for it. Yeah, so I think if you go 20 feet back, it still gives us enough that we don't have to excavate too much and do too much on retaining walls. And we can still get a vehicle in and have the turning radius. So
From the backside to face Main Street?
you would have, so you'd be driving directly into the
Right.
into the garage space.
Oh,
From
okay.
Main Street.
From Main
Right.
Street, yeah.
Those are
okay.
individual curb
Yeah.
cuts, I think.
So
Okay.
the ideal layout with that building is the living room is the walkout balcony there, so overlooking
Right.
the Penobscot Bay.
Yep.
Or the Penobscot River.
Is there any loft in this, or is the peak like an open peak in the,
Well, we did this design in a different location, and we put a ladder up to a loft there. It was kind of a camp. We didn't have to worry about anything with code that way, but you can easily accommodate it, so you can do a knee wall and then do a loft on the top, or an additional knee wall above the second floor.
And with this in mind, Chris, could you come in, have 2 entrances, 1 entrance, 1 exit, and come in the back too? Or is that, you're looking for a space in the
I
back
don't
for a yard?
think so. I mean, you could, but then you'd have to go, so you'd be, if you did 20, 50, now you'd be probably 80, 85 feet into the hillside.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I was trying to keep it really tight to that back end, basically go back probably another 20 feet, do a retaining wall, and then build right close to it was sort of how I was trying to save some money and again, not have to do a tremendous amount of site work.
so are you saying that it could be 4 homes with 2 commercial buildings?
You
or-
could.
Yeah.
I mean, I
The returns
again,
would
I
be
had
tough.
heard that basically the committee's thought was maybe it would be good to have more commercial space. I would be against that, but if there was desire, then we could definitely leave 2 spots to do commercial space. I did, so lot 88 down here, which was also part of the former mill site, I own that space, and
You did or you do?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah, I do. I tried to sell it, and I didn't, so I still do. I'm just joking with that, but yes, I still own the space. I had that on the market for a little over a year, and we did kind of a marketing push to businesses in New England to see, can I give that land away if I get the build package? And we had a response with that of 126 inquiries. I had 14 true responses with nobody willing to invest in that piece of property with me giving it to them. So, and we never even got really to the negotiation phase of what would it be for building. I was just truly trying to find, can I get somebody to come in, look at that piece of property, build on it. and that's me doing that. So that isn't a true, if you got a marketing company to come in and say, but I guess the reason I say all of that is I don't know what you've had, but is there a correlation in my findings without being able to give that piece of land away and what you all have found over here with commercial takers on that? That would be a question I'd have for you all.
There was nothing there, so.
Right, and if you own that piece of property, couldn't you do this project or something like it there?
Well, I'm going to be putting forth a presentation for that as well at some point in the near future. Alan Perry and I have been working on what we can do. The limitations on that piece of land are you've got the water line coming in from Silver Lake, and then you also have the sewer main coming across that. So I think, and this is early phase of this, but I think I could possibly do 6 of these types of homes over there. Probably more realistically, it's 4. And knowing that if anything comes up with either of those two, subsystems, that I'm going to have to dig up, $50,000 in pavement. So, anyway, so I am looking at that. I just, again, it isn't, for me, it's not an appealing piece of land to be able to do that. I need to get Pete to sign off on, which he would do because he wants some of the parking lot out back. But when they transferred that, he got all of the parking easement on Franklin Street where I would need to come in with vehicles. So there's some hoops that I'd have to jump through to do that, but I am exploring that as well. And honestly, part of what I would say to you all is I'll give you that piece of land to keep as a park and green space in a heartbeat if this thing goes through. I would love to give that away. I can't remember what I'm paying for taxes on that, but a couple grand a year, $3,000 a year, something. So, yeah, I'd have no problem with a trade there.
I think we'd all like to see it developed, wouldn't we?
What's that?
I think we'd like to see it developed, probably.
That piece of property over there? I would too. It's a beautiful little piece of property. Again, I think that one as well, you could go in either direction and either go with commercial space over there or residential. It's a really nice piece of property, but the big burden I've had when I've looked at that is the cost associated with just the layout of the land is just difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. So,
did you say the footprint of what these were? The dimensions.
They are. I'm going to say 24 by 29. Don't hold me to that, but that's approximately what they are.
And just one question.
Yeah.
If each of these have a garage, you're going to have the whole pavement of the driveway coming in and out? Or it's going to be one entrance and then, because there's not going to be room for a car in the front to go to each house, so it's going to be each house with its own driveway across the sidewalk coming into the street?
I think, with the comment about the curb cuts, I think that will probably be limited. Maybe I can have one in one so you can at least drive in and out, but I think if you take that into consideration, you'd probably pull in, you'd have some type of a parking area and maybe one offshoot into each garage, or maybe it would be more of a large rectangle in front of all 6 properties, and then because you've got to have enough turning radius to pull in, right? So that would be, I don't know if that would be 15 feet or how much actual pavement I would need, but something like that. But I think if you did a pull through, came in one side, came out the other, and then had enough space so you could, well, 2 things. Number 1, that you could pull directly into the garage. Number 2, knowing that I think this would be a lot of professional couples, you'd need to have a space for one vehicle outside, either to be able to pull in between 2 of the buildings or to be able to pull, on side and still have room to pull in. Those are some details that it would just take, working it out once you got to that next step. But I think those would be a couple options that you would explore.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have people backing out of the garage straight into Main Street.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Rather than the street.
Be like Malibu.
Whatever.
Ever been out there?
This is horrible, not to scale or anything, but I think if you came and pulled in here and this was, again, was parking lot all in front, and then you had enough room to be able to pull directly into each of the garages. I think this would need to be 10 or 15 feet wide to be able to accomplish that. Still back out and then drive off. I mean, you've got 20 feet in between, so I think that leaves you with 10, 15 feet of room for.
Are these the type of houses you're putting up?
What's
This is
that?
what the houses would look like?
Correct. Well, that's what I would propose, yeah. I like the layout and the plan. It's simple, it's very modern, and,
Would one of your companies be building them? Or
yeah,
would you-
we would build those.
So it's an open floor plan with a bathroom and a bedroom?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, what's your timeline?
Oh, you had one on here. It's winter, spring of 23, 24.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think if it took me a couple, 3 months to get through, I don't know, as Mr. Kane pointed out, I don't know what the plan would be with the town, but most things take 2 or 3 months at a bare minimum. And then, the next step, break ground, and these buildings aren't extremely complicated, but, I don't run big crews, so it would still take me probably 6 months start to finish, and then depending on unforeseeable whatever happens, then then that would look like this winter, move in, possibly next spring, depending.
Yep.
You would build all of them at once.
I would, yeah. We'd get them framed and weather tight quickly, and then we'd start moving through them after that. I have 2 electricians I work with, 2 plumbers. Everybody's local, but again, I don't have big crews, and we use most of the people that I use are 1 or 2 people. So we're pretty small that way.
Any
So
other
it's a one-bedroom, and bedrooms are upstairs, the kitchen's
Correct.
upstairs, so it's got to be younger people as opposed to elderly people will be going up and down, or if they put a chairlift. And then if they have a child, then
They're going to
stuck
live
with
over in
someone
my
else.
building over on Bagley, so we don't have to worry about that.
People like me that are single, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and this is, again, I know that, you're looking to make recommendation and everything, so, I'm pretty easy. I'd love to do this project. If the town ultimately says this isn't really what we want this, I'm not opposed to, again, to modifying. I mean, this is as I said, this is a very nice, simple plan. They're building a lot of these, and I'm not comparing Bucksport to Southern Maine at all, but that seems to be a growing trend with younger people, that they're looking for that, very self-contained, easy to maintain type of property in downtown locations. And, you put an extra 12, 14, 16 people over here that are now visiting the downtown community in Hannaford. It is a big boost to the community. So, and I didn't have time to look at what is the number of new construction homes in Bucksport. I'm not sure what those numbers look like. I looked at some of the tax records and some different things like that over the past couple of weeks, but I don't know what that exact number is, but I don't think it's a lot, right?
I don't think so. Luke's still here?
Just how many single family homes have we had in the last 2 years in Bucksport? Yeah.
Somewhere around 80 a year.
80 a year? Okay. So I think this would fill a void. I think people would love that, so.
I've got 2 questions. One was probably for Rich or Luke, but we're still looking to give this land away with a development package, correct? That's what the town is looking to do?
That would be up to the town council,
Yeah.
in the agreement that they make with the developer.
Okay.
It can be anywhere
Right.
between there and paying for it.
Okay.
You had another question?
And my other question is actually for Mr. Kane, if I can ask him.
Well, why don't we finish up with Mr. Pepin, and then if we want to bounce questions, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Pepin?
You intend these to be residential purchased homes, correct? No,
Yeah.
You're not renting places out.
I don't think so. I could go that route. I mean, that part wouldn't make a huge difference other than, the probably the cash flow on that, it would be tighter than, I think in a larger multi-unit complex. I mean, that part would be probably more difficult for me to fund that and then try to rent that. I don't know what a house would go for single family. I mean, I would assume probably a couple thousand. But anyway, I don't know that the numbers for me would work to do that. I think it would be a build and sell.
I think one of the things about a design like this, if you did get a couple and then they became a young family, it wouldn't be too hard to convert it into, downstairs living space.
It wouldn't. I mean, that's one of the, when you look at what they've shown with that particular, it's called the Black Pearl is the name of that design. But, I think the other little bit of research that I did on what's the percentage of young couples that buy a place and then have their families, it's really high that people stay in the area once they've established roots, right? So I think for me, that was the other thing to consider is, are you putting people here that are just passing through? And none of us can control that, but I think it's a pretty good likelihood that you buy a place here, you fall in love with Bucksport if you're from away, or if you're from here, you already love it anyway, and then you look for a bigger house in your next step, and yeah.
Any other questions?
It would be very difficult to convert downstairs into bedrooms if they're going to be family, because you can have a kitchen, everything upstairs, and then bedrooms downstairs. To have children, that's going to be it's a slab. I'm imagining.
Right. You can do it, obviously, but yeah, it's just the backwards approach of you're going upstairs to go to your kitchen and whatnot, and the kitchen's small enough that could you put the kitchen and living room downstairs at that point, and then you could definitely do that.
It'd be easier to sell it and move to a different house.
It might be.
Did you have a question, Luke?
Well, yeah, I was wondering, would you intend to have some type of like an HOA or something in order to?
Well, I don't know what my options are with the lot sizes over there to be able to subdivide, so I'm not sure what that looks like.
I don't have my code book right in front of me, but the lot size required is quite small.
It's 1,000 square feet, I think, right? Or is that just the building?
I think it's 5,000.
5,000, okay.
But that's still
tiny.
Yeah, that's but yeah, my thinking was snow removal and all that kind of thing. Where, if you had a contractor that they all were using, he could come in and take care of it. But they're all individuals that get complicated.
It does get complicated. You can write it into the deed that everybody's responsible for. I've had to do that when I've broken off pieces of land before, or when I bought land with an existing homeowner there. So you can work agreements into that. Crystal, you probably have experience with that.
You need an HOA of some sort to just figure out, who's going to maintain the roads, who's going to maintain the parking areas.
Yeah.
That wouldn't necessarily be one person. You'd have multiple people at that point that would own the parking area, so you'd have to figure out how much is your HOA, what part of that goes to maintaining that area, and who's responsible for snow plowing.
Yeah. So you might have to do that, or you'd have to get creative in how you establish your agreements, or your deed, or your pavement. Do you have breaks in all the pavement with a common way? I don't know. I know we can work through it, but I haven't thought of the HOA piece yet.
Live upstairs, storefront downstairs.
Some sort of funding for
It'd be a small shop.
keep continuing, the improvements or
Yeah.
general area.
Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen?
I think we're good for the moment.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Larry has one question.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment on I'm not sure this design is fitting to the town.
Okay.
So you said you can modify that, but I think it's a little bit too modern for what we would want. And we've already talked about the curb cut, so that's a concern.
Yeah.
I haven't gone out there and measured it, but I can't see 6 units fitting into that space, but I'm sure you've done your measurements.
Well, that is to scale.
It is, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, that's what I've got for comment.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think there were some follow-up questions.
I did. I just wanted to know if Mr. Kane's company owned, do you own any Main Street property or Route 1 property now, Route 15 in Bucksport?
We do not.
You don't? Okay.
We do not.
All right, that's all I was wondering. Thank you.
Crystal, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was, if you subdivide it, you're going to lengthen your time frame on that project, because then you've got to come up with a subdivision plan, and that's going to be a lot different for than just one lot. That's just my take on that, for being on the planning board and such, or that's a.
I think my comment would be, as I kind of alluded to before, I've watched it vacant for 3 years. I don't know how long it was vacant before that, but I'm in as much a hurry as anybody to try to, get things done. So I think with the town's participation, and Luke is great to work with, we can move as fast as the town can move. Alan Perry will help with that as far as from my side of things, and then, we would go from there. But
Subdivision would be required either way.
Yeah, whether it's rental or.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't make a difference. If you have multiple units, more than 3, it's considered a subdivision, even if it's rentals.
Yep.
So like Larry had to deal with it with
Wilson
Hall. It had already been done, so he didn't have to do it again, but you had to do it with the Timberland building.
Right.
So I mean, it has to be done either way. It's state law. No way around it.
Any other questions or comments about either?
Excuse me, these would be available for the first town council meeting, which would be February 23rd at 7 p.m.
Okay. The only thing I'd add is, whether and Pat said it too, I mean, there isn't any engineering here, and that could change the landscape a bit, what people are able or is possible. But first, we'll take up Mr. Kane's proposal. We're looking for a recommendation to the council, yea or nay, to move this forward to them.
I would make a recommendation that we move Mr. Kane's proposal forward to the council.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
So you're second?
I'll second.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And item 2 would have been the
So I do have a question on number 2.
Okay.
And this may be more for the council than for Mr. Peppin, but has the council had discussion about short-term rentals versus long-term rentals versus housing?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. And would there be either an HMO or an ordinance for the town where these were restricted not to be turned into Airbnbs? And I'm not saying we want to go that way,
restriction
but
or something is what you're referring, whether there would.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's something we can certainly bring up.
And I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm sure that would be something that the community may be
Well, this is the only time,
concerned about.
that the seller could exert influences at sale. So, yeah, I get that. Okay. That's the only comment, though, you had?
Yep.
Okay, so on item B, under 527 Main Street, proposal for Mr. Peppin, we need a motion or anything?
I would move it goes forward. I personally like the design.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
So both of these will be brought forward Thursday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. so that the committee is aware, both parties are aware that they both found out tonight who they were. I, for the first time, am seeing the same presentations you saw tonight. I still haven't seen Mr. Pepin's, but I'll get my hands on that now. So you will see them again on the evening of the 23rd.
Okay. Item 6 on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Rich that I didn't have to bring up my
Taking down the holiday?
annual holiday here down before Valentine's Day.
Excellent. Okay, under new business. Chris, do you have anything? Anyone else under new business? Nope. Item 8 would be adjournment.
Vote to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.